Welcome back to another edition of the RTF Show. I'm your host, Michael, here with Brother John. Brother John, how's it going?
It's going great. Just to give everyone a quick update, it is championship week in the MLS. People are coming in from all over the country, if not the world, to Portland, Oregon. It is going to be the Portland Timbers versus New York FC in the finals on Saturday, right here.
We're broadcasting it live on this show?
Yes, we're going to broadcast it
We're gonna cover
live.
that.
I am going to be streaming it from the Timbers Army supporters section. Well, it's pissing rain, but we'll do it live for everyone.
Well, I'm excited for that for you. It sounds like a good time. And another good time is coming up. It's playoff time. Almost. We're almost there. We got 1 week before playoff time here in the RTFL. I just want to read a couple things real quick, and then we can get on with it. One we'll start with one William J. Boylan, who said, "Little known fact: when Mike cooks his chicken, it turns out dry. He can't cook." That's fucking bullshit.
That's true.
That's fucking bullshit. Number two, that I just want to say. Number two is from Alec. Why is everyone piling on Mike? Just because he's going to get beat down by Bill doesn't mean we have to make it worse for him. The embarrassment of losing again is enough. Yeah, very good. Number three, Alpha Peter always has to have something to say. I bet Pittman has a monster game today on his bench. Mm-hmm. Okay. Kelly, not to pile on, but Kelly, you already lost to Charlie and I. What are you waiting for? That was great. And then, it all started at 5:20 in the morning with William J. Boylan sending everybody the message, "Good morning, everyone. Who's going to get murdered in fantasy this week? Looking at you, Mike. But you know what, motherfuckers? The joke's on all of you. Bill got his ass beat in fantasy this week by the Decatur Staleys, who posted one of the best games in a little while. It's been a while since we've seen this type of performance from the Staleys, and I'm psyched about it. Going into the playoffs, that's the way I want to go.
Not to burst your own bubble there, but your
bubble
division
cannot be burst.
Your division mate put up more points than you.
I mean, that's okay. I'm not too worried about the points that the 6 more points that Josh put up. I'm worried about what my team's doing.
Let me ask you this: as this week has technically already started, us being into the Thursday night game now, as an NFL fantasy football manager, is it prudent of you to be focusing on the previous week at this point? Shouldn't you be looking ahead right now, focused on the week to come, because you are facing the formidable Rose City Destroyers?
If you, it's in this case, I think it's a good idea to focus on the past. If you don't learn from history, right, you're doomed to repeat it. You beat me in week 1. And so I've spent a lot of time analyzing my roster choices over the last couple weeks and the last part of the season, and then looking to see where mistakes were made, which guys can be relied on, which guys can't, and I'm ready to move on. But yes, that does bring us to we are on the verge of week 14. The games have started, and perhaps perhaps none bigger, and we're going to cover this game in a little bit more in depth in a second. But perhaps no game bigger than the one that Fitz is playing right now. Brendan versus Alec. This is a matchup that will decide seeding. Whoever wins is going to be, the higher the low seed. But Brendan and Alec both kind of stumbling into the playoffs here. Both had bad weeks. Alec going up against the Alpha Peter, just getting crushed. Put up at a respectable 111 points, but got spanked by Peter Kramer. And then Brendan getting the beat down from the other Peter, the average Peters.
That was a great showing there.
Who beat him 127 to 109.
Yeah.
I think, what for Fitz looking at this, I have to imagine he looked at that week and said, right, I'm going to win, right?
Yep, easy win.
Alec is playing against the Alpha Peter. He's likely to lose. And if I win, Alec loses last week. He secures a higher seed than him. But that was not the case. Rough game for Fitz.
Agreed. Yeah, it was a big showing there by Average Peters, which was awesome. He got great points out of T. Higgins and Najee, and Miles Sanders finally found life, which was kind of crazy. We have not seen much from Sanders all season long. Yep. The whole Eagles offense was rolling. Thank you. Big thanks to one Gardner Minshew there. Goddard had a couple touchdowns. Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell, who's currently available now on the waiver wire, thanks to me dropping him Sunday morning. So big loss for Fitz. He's going to have to go out there and get it done. Hopefully, this situation here builds some rivalry between Alec and him for years to come.
We'll see.
We'll talk about that a little bit later, though. But big playoff implications, and so
for sure.
Playoff seeding later.
Real quick, a couple other kind of notable things from last week. Ken's chances of making the playoffs came to an end with a pathetic 68-point showing. Couldn't beat Charlie, who only put up 77 points. Really just kind of sad all the way around. This was a sad game.
Oh, it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Projected points there, 105 to 87, end up being 77 to 68. It's just brutal. I know Mixon, I think he got injured at some point. You saw a couple good games there from Derek Carr, but starting Boston Scott, I don't understand this. We were just talking about the Eagles. Sanders had a good game. Gainwell had a good game. Minshew had a good game. Goddard had a good game. The only person to not put up anything was Boston Scott, and he has Mike Davis sitting there on his bench with 14.90 points, which would have gotten him the victory had he played Mike Davis over Boston Scott there.
Well, outthought himself. All right.
Truth.
So that was last week. But as John said before, time to focus on the week coming up. The waiver wire was kind of active this week with teams securing some players for the postseason. I wanted to highlight a couple things. I thought, well, actually, let's go in order because you wanted to discuss the Jacoby Myers thing.
I like that pickup a lot. I think he does have potential. I mean, Fitz is obviously a bit of a homer, but I think at that point there's a lot of potential in that offense, and we'll see how the season plays out. Obviously, Fitz isn't going to be starting Myers, but he could be a good player down the road. Now, is he going to garner more than $10 in next year's draft? Maybe, maybe not. That's going to have to be something that Fitz has to determine for himself. But I think sneaky play there. He got dropped by the Alpha Peter last week for someone here. I think it was a bye week fill-in, and Taysom Hill he picked up actually. A little bit of a gamble there. I don't know if he played him or not, but yeah. So that was an interesting pickup there.
So, the Jacoby Myers thing is fine. I don't know, if you're Fitz, you're hoping you don't have to play Jacoby Myers in the playoffs.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I wanted him for a potential keeper later down the road.
I just don't see any way that Jacoby Myers is getting more than $10 in next year's draft. But I guess we'll see. We'll see. Okay, two other things. KJ Osborne gets picked up by Josh. I like this pickup. I don't think Josh is playing him tonight, but with Thielen going down in the Vikings game last week, this is a solid depth play. Somebody that had a nice game in Thielen's absence, caught a touchdown pass. Could be, a good pickup for him, should he need to use him. And then the only other one, I picked up Dontrell Hillyard. I couldn't believe nobody bid on him. Why is nobody bidding on these guys? He seemed like a no-brainer to me. Guy that, it seems to be the premier back in that Titans backfield. With Henry out, clearly I think the guy that is most in line for big plays in that backfield, a guy that is most capable of it. So
perhaps he got lost in the bye week shuffle there. Dropped from the news during that week, and so maybe sneaky good play on your part. It's just hard. It's that offense is clearly built for a running back, so potentially that is the play. 2 good weeks so far in terms of fantasy output. But do you have the guts to start him this week, or are you going to wait and see?
Well, I'm not going to start him this week as long as Eckler is healthy, which it appears to be. I don't think he practiced yesterday, but it sounds like he is in line to play, and they're going to need him since their entire team has COVID. Forgot to do in the last segment, real quick. We'll do this real quick power rankings update. We'll do one last power rankings update next week, but looks like a lot of things are pretty locked in. The bottom 3 locked in, the top 3 locked in, top 3 Kramer, myself, and then Josh. Steve, in a hilarious, turn of events, catapults up the rankings after, and I can't remember what the final score was of Steve's game from last week, but where was that one? Yeah, after he beat you, he put up 120 points. It was, I believe, it was Steve's best showing in quite some time. Yeah, well, he had that 116-point loss to Kramer, but other than that, that's a rough one for Steve when he's already out of the playoff race. Fitz moves down a spot. Alec moves down a spot. The average bidders move up 2. Ken moves down 2 as he's out of the playoffs now. And Charlie settles in down in the number 9 spot, but with a lock in the playoffs. Lock to make the playoffs.
It's incredible.
So it's got to feel good.
Yeah, one-time division winner here, 2 times back-to-back playoff appearances for football and stuff. So
Charlie's going to make the playoffs, having averaged 93 points per week, which I would feel. I think I would feel a little bit more frustrated with it if it weren't for the fact that he's also going to make the playoffs with at least a 500 record, which likely is going to put him with the 6th best record in the league. I don't think there's anybody, and we can check the standings, but maybe Steve, he might tie with Steve in terms of record, depending on what happens this week if Charlie loses and Steve wins. But there's nobody with a winning record or, that's going to be held out of the playoffs because of Charlie. So
additionally, Charlie is the only division winner to go 4-0.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
He got
division.
Those 4 wins make up more than half of his wins there, which division wins really do matter in this situation. He showed up when it counted. Now his points differential is certainly the worst of any playoff bound team.
Yeah.
I mean, that is for sure.
100%.
Yours and Fitz being pretty close. Alex being a little bit less close, 120 or so there. But Charlie's being negative 104 or 104. So
I mean, mine and Fitz's though are close in respect that we both had a lot of points scored against us. Charlie, I think Charlie had like the second least amount of points scored against him in the league, second only to Alec.
Alec had
1,000
fewest.
Yeah, but not by much. Charlie was right there. So
I'm right up there with you guys, which is unfortunate. I mean,
yes, I had the most.
I have the second most. People really show up against us, Mike.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Taking it to the brothers, that's right.
Yeah, they really, God. I'm surprised we don't get booed more like Roger Goodell. This is, they certainly show up against us. But
all right. With that said, let's look ahead to quick recap of the playoff situation and how some of the games this weekend will impact it, because there is some impact. The playoff situation as it sits right now, Peter, the Alpha Peter, has a stranglehold on the 1 seed. He is not going to be taken out of that spot, even if he loses this week, which is very unlikely.
Yeah, Josh could win. He could lose.
And it's just not going to happen. He has too many points.
200 points ahead at this point.
Yeah. So. Where the real intrigue lies, the other stranglehold on a specific seed lies with Charlie, who in the 6th seed
we bookended it here. So.
Yeah, is locked firmly in the 6th seed.
Yeah, he could end up tying Alec. No.
No, he could tie with several people. If I lose, if Alec loses, if Josh loses, or if Fitz loses to Alec. But that's Charlie, as is the case with Peter, the point differential is too much to make up. So that's his issue. But the other issue, and what the spots that lie open are those 2 through 5 spots. Josh is in the 2 seed right now. If Josh loses this week, I believe Josh is playing Peter Sullivan, who had a good week last week. Could show up again this week. We'll see. If Josh loses this week and I win, assuming I maintain the narrow points lead that I have on him, I would be in the 2 seed. Josh would fall to the 3 seed. Brendan, it's going to be tough for him to get to that 2 seed just because of the points differential. So if Josh loses, it would be difficult. He's down by about 40 something.
Yeah, if you win and Josh loses and Fitz wins, he would not only have to catch Josh in points, then he would have to catch you, which is not very many, but making up, what is that? 54 points, 57 points there. That's a I mean, he would have to lay a significant beat down on Alec, which we've seen Fitz put up, that 140 range before.
Yep, for sure.
But it would take both you and Josh to have sub 100 weeks then at that point.
Yes,
which
I think that's right.
I think would be difficult, based on how, what players you guys have available this week. So
I think that's right. And in Alec's case, if Alec is to beat Fitz this weekend, I don't really see any way in which he could catch the 2 seed. Even if Josh lost,
no.
It would be.
Could take the 3 seed, right?
He could if I lost, he could take the 3 seed.
Yeah.
By record, yes, that is true.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be able to take the 3 seed if you won.
No.
Or Fitz lost. The point differential is way too much to make up. So
yeah. I think the interesting thing is we could be in a situation where so Josh and not Josh, Alec and Brendan are playing each other this week. It's going to be a razor thin margin of victory. I think that we're set up for one of the season-ending, I think, all-time greats. It's going to be a nice even matchup. They both got guys that I think you're worried about relying on in your lineup. Guys like Sony Michel, guys like Vance Jefferson, guys like although Elliott, the news came out today that Tony Pollard hurt.
Plantar fasciitis. That's I've had that injury, and let me tell you, it was a tough time. But
I'm sure
that's gonna be rough. So Zeke could get that lion's share there again, be the workhorse. Sony Michel, I mean, I don't know Henderson's status, but I know that Sean McVay did come out and say, hey, like, we will be using Sony Michel similarly for the rest of the season, like Tony Pollard is used, if not more so. Big question mark here is James Robinson, right? So as we saw last week, and all the news this week was he was seemingly benched after the fumble. Even when Carlos Hyde was calling for a breather, they refused to send Robinson back in. That's it's insane as a NFL coach to do something like that when your best player, definitely his best player, is sitting on the bench because he fumbled. When Hyde fumbles and he doesn't get benched, it's insane. So will Urban, sorry, I was going to make a crotch grabbing joke, but will he double down on this and go back to Hyde? He seems kind of like the petty bastard that would do something like that. Do you start Robinson?
Well, I don't think he has much of a choice. His only other choice is Jeremy McNichols, who I think clearly is the number 2 option in that backfield. I mean, Ty Johnson is not a real option in that Jets offense. And his real option is Myles Gaskin, who's on a bye week. So this is a tough play for Fitz. The other thing about the Sony Michel news, that stuff came on the heels of him saying we have to get Darrell Henderson involved in the running game, and Darrell Henderson, we're a better team when Darrell Henderson is the guy running the ball. So who the fuck knows what's going to happen? But I would say, right, if you're Fitz, you're looking for a monstrous game from Travis Kelce, a monstrous game from Cooper Kupp to kind of carry you over the finish line. And then if you're Alec, you got to hope that Zeke really does get those touches, that Pollard is as banged up as they say he is, and is going to be held out, because I think Zeke is going to be the guy that, can carry him home to victory if there's victory to be had.
Yeah, there's really both their benches are pretty
they're
sparse.
pretty
And,
non-existent.
that depth is rough there. And so, it's going to be interesting. If Kelsey goes off, then that means Pat Mahomes is putting up points. So not quite canceling out, but a little bit. If Van Jefferson goes off, then that means Stafford is doing well. And maybe that means a little bit less points to Cup, although unlikely there.
I
so-
think the Cup Stafford stack is really going to work out in Fitz' favor today. The thing that you worry about is the Michelle in there too, right? In the off chance they do get shut down by Arizona, it's going to be a devastating day for Fitz.
Michelle's certainly not their pass catching back. Is Henderson that for them? I'm not sure. Unless Michelle has shifted to that, I don't.
I would not have thought of Henderson as a pass catching back, but
also, and neither is
I guess we'll
Michelle.
see.
So I don't know. I don't know how that works out there in terms of who's getting the passing down work. If it is Michelle, then great. But if not, he's going to have a hard time there. And then same thing. They've got so much overlap here. Where Dallas, depending on the way that game script there, if they start passing the ball a lot, Elliott is a great pass catching back too. Or not great, but he is serviceable at this point and has seen a lot of work there. But you're dancing between Cooper and Elliott there. Who's going to get the touchdowns? Who's going to get the bulk of the passing work? And so it'll be interesting. And then
it will be.
Yeah, with James Robinson and Marvin Jones Jr. He's only got a few games here. Fitz has to watch.
This whole thing is going to really come down to Monday Night Football, which I would imagine is going to be, Alec's got two guys as well. He's got Ertz and Jefferson, but I think obviously if you're Alec, you're looking to have a fairly commanding lead going into that game to feel at all comfortable.
Yeah. If you are not up by at least 60 going into Monday night, I'd be worried.
Yeah,
I would be very worried.
It's going to be tough. Okay. So this is the matchup I think to watch. The other couple matchups that may have some implications would be mine and yours. Obviously, we've talked about if I lose, that may open up some slots. And then also Josh and Peter, which how the fuck does Pete have negative points already? That's frustrating. Boswell missing a goddamn kick. Okay.
That's rough. That's an off-season topic. Is missing a 40-yarder worthy of negative points there?
We can address that in the
but I think that's Peter coming off the heels of the big game last week, potentially playing upset again would be huge, right? So.
It would be big, and there are some question marks on this team for Josh. The David Montgomery stuff. Apparently, his whole body is hurt. So that's somewhat concerning. It's also just concerning in the fact that the Bears' offense is abysmal.
Debo coming back. Is he healthy? The groin injury, it's potentially is going to play. Still in doubt, though. Kyle Pitts has been disappointing as of late. Javonte Williams, though, wow, huge game. But Melvin Gordon's healthy again, so
I was going to say Gordon's coming back.
Patterson's been great. Hopkins just came back, had a good game.
Patterson's coming off I think what was one of his more mediocre performances this season. Basically he didn't have any touchdowns, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, It'll be an interesting game for sure. A lot of question marks on the other side too.
Yep.
I don't expect Higgins to have the massive game that he did.
No.
Darren McLaurin's a question mark at times now. Miles Sanders is on bye, so he'll need to handle that situation. Who are you putting in there? It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Josh could really use some momentum going into the playoffs. And then same thing for you. I mean,
we all could.
You had a get right game last week, and then
momentum would be nice.
If you can get one here, that would be huge.
We'll see. So far, you're up, but it is a lot left to be seen. Keenan Allen, obviously a huge question mark in terms of COVID. Possible that he plays. He is vaccinated, so we'll see.
Daniel Carlson secured the bag today, signing a 4-year, $18 million deal, $10 million guaranteed. So that boy is going to be kicking.
I really wish they would have waited to pay him until after the season. Keep him wondering.
Keep him hungry.
All right. I think that we'll end it there. Short show today, but we will be coming back next week with our playoff palooza show to get you ready for the playoffs. It would be great to have some guests on, and I mean guests plural, to preview these matchups in the playoffs. Maybe we'll get a surprise guest or so if we can work that out. That's all we got.
Looking forward to rivalry week. No, it's rivalry week. Talk some shit in the group chat.
Reminder: if you beat the team that beats their rival by the most points, will win the finish them prize of $25.
Yep.
All righty.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. Can't wait.
All right.
Well, $25.
For John, I am Mike. This has been the RTF Show.
Finish 'em!